someone who, when I think about a transformational leader, that is who I think about. I've been in many meetings with her, but one of the things I really admire her for is I look at her internally, her Yammer account, externally, her LinkedIn account. She is meeting with all the employees within the company. She goes up to the mountains, to the deserts, to the ocean. Even we have an island, Catalina, to where we have service at. She visits all those places, meets with the people, appreciates the people, recognizes them, but most importantly, she listens to them, and she brings that back. That is an inspiring leader. So with that, please welcome our Executive Vice President, Chief Operating Officer, Jill Anderson.
Video is something that we use to communicate with our customers, to help us attract new talent into this business, to get people excited about the vision that we have for a clean energy future. And this is the vision, as you saw, of Edison International. We are driving forward to it as fast as we can. We have written a pathway about it. And for us, that's talking about 2045, when we think that 3/4 of the passenger vehicles on the road in California will be electric, when 70% of the buildings will be electric, when all of the electricity that we deliver to our 5.5 million customers, 15 million people that we serve in this part of the state, will be carbon-free. We believe in that vision. Now, this is my first time attending this event, and I've been having a great time meeting all of you, spending some time with all of you at breakfast. But help me for a minute before I keep going. I would love to take a quick pulse check on the audience. So how many of you similarly believe in a clean energy vision or some version of that? Or maybe you're already working on that and directly with utilities or helping to support us doing that. Maybe just clap if you're all in the That's great. I love that, because it's a big job ahead of us. So we are going to need all of the brain power in this room and beyond for us to be able to achieve that. I think about the parallels to what's in front of us, to what the architects and designers of the interstate highway system were facing, in the middle of last century when they started on that journey. Think about how complex that issue was for them. Having to figure out which cities are we going to connect first? How wide should the roads be? Where should the exits be? This is what cars are like today, but what are they going to be like 50 years from now when they're on this road? They had to think about, how do we do it safely? And how do we do it affordably? And I'm sure they had design choices that, looking back, they would have changed, made mistakes along the way. What's in front of us is very similar to that. I think the opportunity to reshape the country really globally, how we consume energy, how we deliver energy, all of that is going to change in our lifetimes. And it's all of you, the architects of that future. And just like the highway system, which is something we can't imagine today our lives without, the generations beyond those original architects are today enjoying that investment. We are going to similarly make a mark on the generations that are coming from us, and we are also going to be successful. But we know it's not going to be easy. And before I talk another minute about the future of what we know is possible with the grid, I want to take you to the past, and actually just only about 5 weeks ago. So 5 weeks ago was about September 6th. And we were having a beautiful, much sunnier day than today in California. It was very hot. Coastal communities like here were in the high 90s, or maybe mid-90s. We were in triple digits in the middle of the state. And we were seeing our customers doing everything they can do to stay cool. Maybe they were going to the beaches. They were going to movie theaters. Maybe from the outside it looked like it was a great day. But behind the scenes, utility operators like me, we were very nervous. It was the 7th day of a heat wave that would not relent. We were seeing equipment failures because they weren't getting that overnight cooling that we're used to, especially here in the desert. We were seeing demand just continue to outpace the available supply. We called on all of the demand response resources that were at our disposal. We had pulled in every available generator and intertied to the other states for imports. And then around 5:30 at night on September 6th, the state took an unprecedented action, and anyone with a cell phone who was nearby got this message, which was, please stop using electricity to the extent you can do so safely. It certainly made a ripple effect across the state, made news nationally. It also made a difference, and we saw about 1,000 megawatt load drop from people who got this message. But the downside of that story is that we saw immediate backlash and hesitation, concern, criticism, all of the naysayers pointing to this as evidence that you can't charge your electric vehicle whenever you want. You can't depend on wind and solar the way that policymakers have been promising. This kind of event, while from a utility operator's perspective, was very successful. We kept the lights on. The downside is on this path for a clean energy vision, if people think this is going to be the future, we're not going to get there. And we already have to do a lot more work to convince policymakers that they can continue those promises for carbon-free, continue to pass laws that are banning combustion engines, and that we can guide them through this journey in a way that's not going to result in people calling for them to leave office, or that it's not going to have issues with the reliability of this grid that we know is the lifeblood of our communities. So there's a lot of work still for us to do, and I share this story not as an example that's not possible, because I do believe, I know that it is possible. And when I think about the progress that we have made just in the last couple of years, it's tremendous. I can tell you from 2 years ago, if we had had this same weather condition, the same demand profiles, we would have had rotating outages. But in 2 years, because of the work of many of you in this room, the technology advancements that you're all helping to put forward, we were able to ride through it. But it is up to us to figure out how to continue to move forward to this vision in a way that is avoiding these kinds of close calls. And I think about that marketing video that we started out with, where we have those big, bold pictures of wind turbines, we have neighborhoods with their rooftops covered in solar. What we're missing there is the images of the critical part of the grid that all of you are working on. The backbone of the system, all of the communications, the controls, the analytics, everything that's going in to making all of those big, bold, beautiful pictures possible. And those things are harder to picture. Maybe you could think about them in wires and linemen and people putting up communications and things like that, but you all know and we know how important and critical that is. And that's why I was so happy that we could be part of this event today, that you've invited us to me to speak, and you're going to have many other speakers that I know you heard from yesterday. You met Todd Inlander, our Chief Information Officer. Today you'll see Lorraine Miller, I just saw her walk in, who runs our customer service organization, Brian Barrios, who is our Chief Cyber Security Officer. And I know all of you are also going to share your experiences, make connections, and help us learn from each other, because it's going to be a challenging path, no doubt. But I am confident that working together, sharing our lessons, sharing the hard days that we've had, and also the wins, that it's possible for us to keep moving down this pathway in a way that can be less disruptive for our customers, and ultimately delivering on that vision of a clean future for all of us. So I want to provide a little bit of context as you go forward thinking about those conversations that we're going to have the rest of the day on some of the examples of things that we have been able to advance, both on the grid side and on the customer side. So on the grid side, We've made a lot of progress on investments in the next generation of our cellular communications. We are constantly talking about and advancing changes between our information technology and our operational technology. We've got changes to how we design the grid. So we have microgrids now that are operating across our service area. We have new design strategies that we call remote grids, where rather than extending the entire grid, we'll actually serve a pocket that operates normally isolated in parts of our service area. We're seeing the opportunities for us to integrate with all of the electric vehicles that are now ready to export onto the grid. We already have now, I think at SCE it's 15% of our residential customers have solar, and we process about 8,000 new interconnections a month for solar and storage behind the meter. And it's the control systems and the grid management systems and those communication systems that are all critical, because we're transitioning very quickly from a past state where we had to only worry about hundreds of generators to a future state where we will have millions just on our service area. So it's a tremendous opportunity for all of us, but it's also one with a lot of complexity. And when we think about the grid side, I think it's also so important for us to take a step back and focus on the people side of what we do. Because ultimately, as interesting as this technology is, and I'm an engineer, I would love to just talk about that for the rest of my presentation. It's actually driving us at Edison, and I think driving the industry, is not just the capabilities of the technology, but it's about the people on the other side of the outlet, right? It's the devices that our customers are relying on to run their lives. The toasters that they're plugging in, the lights that they're using at night, the medical devices that keep them alive. It's about what is on the other side of the delivery point that we're responsible for, that is really driving us. And in that way, we have also had an incredible amount of progress in the last few years. We are focusing on giving customers a lot more control over their energy and their pricing. We've now defaulted all of our customers to time of use pricing. We have special pricing if you are an electric vehicle driver or you have an electric building. And we're seeing that those kinds of price signals are actually resulting in behavior change. An electric vehicle owner at Edison, who's on one of our electric vehicle rates, shifts 20% of their usage into the cheapest hours, which is just the beginning of the opportunity with smart appliances and smart devices that can automatically make those decisions to help customers manage their bills. I mentioned that we have a tremendous amount of solar already connected on the grid. In 2020, we launched our first virtual power plant, where we are paying customers so that we have the access to the solar and the battery storage that's behind their grid. And we're discharging it onto the grid at the time of day that it's going to make the most impact for all of the other customers. We have over 1,000 customers now where we can control that generating station, if you would, behind the meter. Electric vehicles, I've mentioned a few times. SCE runs the largest electric vehicle programs in the country. We have now over 400,000 customers driving EVs in our service area. And what we're seeing, a lot of that driven by gas prices, but also driven by the availability of the charging infrastructure, we're seeing that 20% of new cars sold in our state are all electric. And that is doubled just from a year ago. We're putting together the infrastructure to make that possible. The 41,000 charge ports that we will have advanced by the end of 2025. It's incredible. But all of that, I want to tie back to the brains of the operation, because it's one thing for us to just make sure that our customers have access to that electricity to fill the battery. But we need to be able to help that happen at a time when it is the most advantageous for the customer from a pricing standpoint, and the grid from a controls and broader, benefits to all of the consumers. And so we're advancing that software technology and controls technology so that we can work with aggregators or work with the car companies directly or work with the customers to make that make sense for everyone. And I think about, with the grid technologies that we're advancing, with the impacts that we're having on people. And I really come back to thinking about, that interstate highway example that I started from. Because I wonder, it must have been a lot of emotions that were going through the minds of people who were running those programs. They were on budgets like we are. They were on timelines like we were. They probably had a lot of naysayers and a lot of criticism. They were probably excited about the opportunities in front of them and maybe a little daunted by the challenge. And my relation to that is I feel the weight of this task that is ahead of us, that is ahead of all of us. And I feel the opportunity. But I also know that it's, events like this, it's the utility professionals and partner professionals like all of you that are going to help us make that happen. And so as you continue with the program today, let me give you 2 suggestions. The first is for you to help us, all of us, with the storytelling that's necessary for us to bring this vision to life. I mentioned that video and the solar panels and the wind turbines, and it's hard for people to visualize the control systems and the data analytics. But you all can help us do that. You can share the work and the projects that you're on. You can help us tell those stories, because we need to keep attracting the talent to all parts of this solution, not just the big and the flashy parts too. And I think storytelling is such a big part of us being successful in that way. And my second suggestion is for you to use this opportunity to connect. Obviously connect with each other. I would hope and love for you to connect with me. I'll put my contact information, I think I have on there, so you can connect on LinkedIn or other ways. But really it's connecting the dots, because if we were each individually taking these huge problems and trying to solve them, it will take us significantly longer than if we did them together. And I know that is one of the missions and the value proposition that the UBBA group is already proving. And so if we can use those 2 things, I think we can find ourselves on the other side of this challenge ahead of us, where we can reflect back, just like we are on the highway system, on the marvel of the change and the transformation that we are architecting today. And some of us might not even work all the way through to see the end of this transition, but instead know that the contributions that we're making is having an impact on everyone today, everyone 5 years from now, a generation from now, multiple generations from now. Millions and millions of people are going to benefit from cleaner air, from affordable electricity, from more control and comfort in their lives because of the work that we have all embarked here on advancing the clean energy future. And with that, I am going to turn it back over to Carlos. And I'm just so excited for everything that we're going to see and hear and connect over the rest of the program.